Hello, good morning. You're welcome to our lecture series on chordates. Today's lecture will be on Aves. And what are Aves? Aves, the class Aves basically consists of the birds. And the birds are mainly uh, feathered, winged, bipedal, endothermic, egg-laying vertebrates. Now, the definition of the birds describe them as feathered creatures because they have feathers as integumentary structures, and they also have wings for flight. They are said to be bipedal because they are able to walk on 2 feet or perch on 2 feet. Their forelimbs are modified into wings that are used for flight, while their hind limbs are modified into feet that are used for perching, for running, for walking, even for swimming. In some species, like the penguins, they are bipedal, they can walk on 2 feet. And they are said to be endothermic or warm-blooded because they are able to regulate their internal temperatures. They are also egg-laying vertebrates. They lay eggs, and their eggs are usually made up of calcium. The shells of their eggs are made up of calcium carbonate, unlike the eggs of the reptiles that have lead-rich shells. The birds are characterized by feathers, a beak with no teeth, and the laying of hard-shelled eggs, a high metabolic rate, a four-chambered heart, and a lightweight but strong skeleton. These are the features of the birds. They have feathers, and they possess beaks and do not have teeth in their mouth. And they also lay hard-shelled eggs made up of calcium. Then the shells of such eggs are made up of calcium carbonate. They have high metabolic rate in contrast with the reptiles that have a slow metabolic rate, that are poikilothermic. They have a four-chambered heart. That's an advancement from the amphibians, reptiles that have three-chambered hearts, and the fishes too. The fishes have two-chambered hearts, but the birds have four-chambered hearts like that of mammals, and they have a lightweight but strong skeleton. Birds also have a unique digestive and respiratory system, okay, that are adapted for flight. The digestive system is water efficient, while the respiratory system have uh, air sacs that uh, contain air that enable the bird to be buoyant when flying. And the bones of the skeletal system too have pneumatic cavities that are connected to the respiratory system. The birds have about 10,000 species, and they are the class of tetrapods with the highest number of species. The ability to fly has permitted an almost unlimited diversification of birds, so that they are now found virtually everywhere on Earth, from occasional stragglers over the polar ice caps like the penguins to complex communities in tropical forests. The, all species of birds that are currently in existence belong to the subclass Neonates and inhabit ecosystems across the globe from Arctic to Antarctic. Extant birds range in size from 5 cm human bird to the 2.75 or 9 feet ostrich. Now let us look at the general characteristics of birds in detail. The general characteristics. Want to look at the locomotion of birds. Birds are arboreal. They are arboreal flying creatures with forelimbs adapted for flight and hind limbs for perching, walking, wading, or swimming. Though a few species like penguins and ostriches are flightless. So the birds usually are known to be arboreal. They fly, and they are found on top of trees, and there are some species actually that cannot fly, like the penguins in the polar region. and the ostriches. These ones are permanently not able to fly. Their wings are not adapted for flight. And the hind limbs, which are the feet, are adapted for perching, for walking, for wading, and for swimming in the case of the penguins. Birds also are endothermic. They exhibit endothermy. Another word for endothermic is word warm-blooded or homeothermic or homothermal. They are said to be endothermic because they are capable of regulating their internal temperatures. Birds have the capability to regulate their internal temperature. Behavior of birds. Most birds are diurnal, that they are usually active during the day, but some birds, such as many species of owls and nightjars, are nocturnal or crepuscular. That's usually nocturnal birds are active at night, while crepuscular birds are active during twilight hours. That's towards night, at the evening when it's about to get dark. And many coastal waders feed when the tides are appropriate, by day or night. Now, birds also produce auditory sounds or signals, like they produce auditory signals, like visual ones, are almost universal among birds. The most familiar vocalization of birds is that usually referred to as song. They produce sounds that are called songs, and most birds build nests in which eggs are laid. Birds also exhibit molting. Birds molt their feathers. The contour feathers are shed and replaced or molted at least once a year, usually just after the breeding season. In addition, many birds have at least a partial molt before the breeding season. Birds also exhibit brood parasitism. Brood parasitism, in which an egg layer leaves her eggs with another individual's brood, is more common among birds than in other type of organisms. After a parasitic bird lays her eggs in another bird's nest, they are often accepted and raised by the host at the expense of the host's own brood. So birds exhibit that trait. They lay their eggs in another bird's brood for the eggs to be incubated by another bird. The body shape of most birds is spindle-shaped. They have a spindle-shaped body, and that is an adaptation for flight to reduce resistance by wind. The integumentary structures of birds. The bodies of birds have feathers or are covered by feathers. Only the legs of birds are covered with scales, usually with 4 toes on each foot. They have feathers. The fishes have scales in their skin. The amphibians do not have scales, do not have integumentary structures. The reptiles have scales and dry scales and scutes. The mammals have hairs, but for the birds, their integumentary structures are actually feathers and some scales in their feet. Limbs. The forelimbs of birds are modified as wings for flight, and the posterior hind limbs are adapted for walking, perching, wading, and swimming. The skeleton of birds. Birds have a lightweight but strong skeleton. The bodies of birds are fully ossified. That's the bones of birds are fully ossified. They're usually very strong and have pneumatic or hollow inside, which lower the overall weight of the bird. The pneumatic cavities or the air cavities in the bones are connected to the respiratory system. And when the bird respires, some of the air gets into the bones, and that gives the bird some light weight for it to be able to fly freely. Birds also possess oil glands, uropygial or oil glands. is present in the tail region, which they usually use for cleaning up themselves. The mouth of the birds is without teeth, is wide, and jaws are covered with horny sheaths that form strong beaks. In this case, food is swallowed unmasticated. Birds have beaks and they do not have teeth in their mouth. And because of this, they do not chew their food, they swallow their food whole. The skin of the birds is thin, loose, and dry, with flight muscle in the thorax. The sweat gland is absent. They do not have sweat gland in their skin. Urinary bladder. Birds do not possess urinary bladder. The birds have a four-chambered heart with two ventricles and two atria. The respiratory system can perform double respiration. In this case, air sacs are connected to the lungs, which ensure supplement respiration. The fertilization. Birds perform internal fertilization. After copulation, during copulation, the sperm is being introduced into the female, either through the cloaca or any copulatory organ. And it goes in and fertilizes the eggs in the ovary. So fertilization in birds is actually internal. Birds are oviparous, and the matured female lay hard-shelled eggs with a large amount of yolk, that they are said to be telolacetal. Okay, they lay hard-shelled eggs that have large amount of yolk, and they are oviparous. Birds are egg-laying vertebrates. They are egg-laying vertebrates. Mostly after laying the eggs, they incubate their eggs, unlike reptiles that lay their eggs and leave them to be incubated by the ground. Birds will have to lay their eggs in nests and sit on the eggs. Development of birds is direct, and four embryonic membranes such as amnion, chorion, allantoin, and yolk sacs are formed. Birds have a high metabolic rate compared to other vertebrates. We want to look at the anatomy and physiology of aves. The first we want to look at is a gross external anatomy. The body of most birds is spindle-shaped and they possess feathers as a covering of their epidermis. The aves possess clawed four-digit hind limbs, which are adapted for walking, perching, wading, and swimming, while their forelimbs are modified to form wings for flight. Only their legs are covered with scales. Birds actually have clawed four-digit hind limbs, 4 digits. Instead of 5, they have 4 digits, and the digits are clawed, unlike those of amphibians that are not clawed. The head of birds is small and round with a relatively long, flexible, and movable neck. They have very small heads and the heads are round. The mouth is wide and jaws are covered by horny sheaths that form strong beaks. Teeth are not present in the mouth of birds. Birds lack teeth. Aves possess eyes with a lower and upper eyelid and a nictitating membrane which can be drawn to cover the eye. Now, the birds have eyelids. Okay, their eyes have eyelids. They can close and open their eyes. The fish and amphibians do not have eyelids, and some reptiles, like the snakes, do not have eyelids, so their eyes would have to be permanently open. But some reptiles, like the turtles, the lizards, and some other reptiles, have eyelids. But one feature of the birds that's unique here is that they have nictitating membrane. The nictitating membrane of birds helps to keep the eye moist and clean. The nictitating membrane is a transparent substance. It helps to keep the eyes moist and clean. Lying behind each of the eyes is the ear opening, which is hidden with tufts of feathers. Okay, they have an ear opening that connects to the inner ear. And that's different from the amphibians. The fish have their ears internal, but no external ear opening. The amphibians have patches of skin that's called the tympanic membrane. The same thing is applicable to the reptiles. But birds have an advancement. They have an opening, ear opening that leads to the internal ear, the inner ear. The tympanic membrane of aves is internal, not on the surface of the skin as it is in reptiles and amphibians. Now here is a picture of a cock and showing the gross external anatomy of birds. Here is the comb, the nostril, the mouth, the earlobe. Then we have what we call the wattle. Then we have the eyes, the ears, which are connected to the inner ear, the tail, the vent, and this is the hook. Then we have the shank. Thank you very much for watching. Our next lecture will be on the internal anatomy and physiology of birds. Keep watching this our series and you will always be educated.